So when we're talking about the difference between intake and sales is the data collection portion of your firm. When you have a potential new client coming into the firm, the goal of intake should be data collection and qualification. I mean, is this a client case type that we handle in a jurisdiction that we handle? That is it. All of the rest of it, we can work out in sales. Intake is information gathering. And the essential component of intake is even if you have one person doing both intake and sales, you want intake to be gathering all of the information so that the sales conversation can be solely focused on trust building, solution presentation, and building that rapport with the client and converting the sale. Common misconceptions, a lot of people say intake is just answering the phones. It is not. I think intake is one of the most technical things that we have in our law firms. We need to make sure that our intakes are completely clear on what they're doing as far as qualifying the leads coming in and documenting why leads are not qualified. I do not believe that if someone calls into your firm and you cannot help them, we should just let that information go. And they're calling in on a non-local service ad, then we need to get as much information about that lead for marketing purposes to know why they called in, what it was about our marketing that made them call us, so that we can then redirect any marketing efforts so that we don't waste all of our intake team's time later on with all these people. Unless your intake team is taking down this information, it does not have to take an inordinate amount of time. You can use forms to get the basic contact information like their name, their reason for their call, and then the reason they are disqualified or not a qualified lead. When we're looking at intake, this is all about gatekeeping between our marketing efforts and our sales. Intake is key in making sure that we're not only getting everything lined up and properly teed for our sales teams, but it also has to be properly documented so that you can actually use the data that intake collects to judge your marketing and whether marketing's working or not. For the flow, specifically, I was asked about the flow. When I'm looking at intake, I view the intake flow as you have the initial contact, you have the case screening. So for local service ads, do not take any information, do not take their name, do not take their phone number. Ask immediately, what kind of case do you have? What jurisdiction are you in? When we're looking at the rest of intake, you gather the practice area, you get the jurisdiction, you identify any potential conflicts of interest. This is just the first check. I recommend 3 conflict checks in this process between intake and sales. Your goal for your intake team is to gather as much information as is necessary to complete the sale, not to start working on the case. The role of intake and sales is this person qualified? Do they need our services? Can we help them? Then we talk to them about how we help them. Then we start helping them once they've paid us. We are not here to start working on their case at the beginning. But I do not believe we as attorneys are ethically allowed to give legal opinions during intake and sales because we do not have enough information. So at best, we're committing malpractice by giving them our legal analysis. At worst, we're lying to them to get the sale. Either way, I think it's wrong. Now, when we're talking about the sales position is really going through and establishing trust, presenting the solution, handling objections, and getting that sale done. It's assuring them, yes, we can help you. Let's get you started. Then we immediately get them into contact with the legal team. We just need that immediate touch so that they feel immediate value in the hiring. The 4 questions are essentially, what do you want? How long will you wait to get it? What happens if you wait? And how serious are you? What do you want is uncovering the real goal. 90% of the sales call should be focused on what do you want. When we're talking about what do you want, we need to get to the deep psychological issue that the person is having. But when you're looking at this from a psychological perspective, you have to understand that the human brain processes in the sales process, the majority of the decision to purchase comes subconsciously from an emotional place. The subconscious mind is the emotional mind. People buy emotionally and then justify logically. Figure out what it is that's emotionally driving their decision to call you, their decision to seek legal help. Find that deep emotional connection, and once you hit it, then you can make the sale. The reason the majority of sales calls don't work is because everything is surface level and it's operating on habituated pattern. The client is expecting that same approach. What we're doing when we ask the 4 questions is we are engaging in a pattern interrupt. We are asking them something that they're not expecting. We're saying, tell me what it is that you actually want. You want to get to the point where you can actually either visibly or audibly tell that someone has reached an emotional point. To know that you're reaching an emotional point, you'll hear things like you'll hear audible cues. You'll hear someone get choked up. That's an easy one. You'll hear someone repeat themselves and say the same thing a couple of times. You'll hear someone do a long pause. You'll hear someone change the modulation of their voice. There are all these different cues that you can look for to see if you've reached that valley of emotion, as I call it. This is where a sale occurs because when people buy emotionally, they're locked in, they feel like they've been heard, and they're ready to go. You have to talk about what the people care about, which is their own personal life and their own personal mess. All anyone cares about is how is this affecting me personally. When you guys got on this call, all you're thinking about is what am I going to get out of this for my law firm? Because that's what human beings think. What is in it for me? What can I get? They don't need to hear how many awards you've won or how great your law firm is. They need to hear how you're going to help them. If you're doing the sales call correctly, the client is selling themselves and you're just a witness to it. Now, this is where ethical sales come in. You can use this for evil. You can come from the perspective of manipulating people, but that's going to end up with very dissatisfied clients because if you're coming from a place of manipulation and being inauthentic, it's going to show up in the rest of your team because the experience that they're sold on the sales call isn't going to be what they get in the firm. The problem that I've seen in the legal industry is that so many law firms are doing free consultations. If you're doing a paid consultation, you need to have something that sets you apart. There needs to be something that they're actually getting. How to shorten the intake to sign client process was another question that we got. The way to shorten it is to be able to sell someone on the phone. If you're doing it by Zoom, you have to be able to sell them on Zoom. Our job with intake and sales is to make sure that we're identifying that we have a client we can help, and then we're actually helping them. The way to build consistency as a sales process is to monitor it. To actually monitor what's happening. You need to have KPIs, you need to have regular meetings. Now, you as the law firm owner do not have to do this, but you need to have someone on your team tracking this. You need to have a mechanism in place where you're tracking either weekly or bi-weekly. I know this sounds like a lot, but I guarantee you if you have these things in place, you're going to get significantly more consistency and traction. You need to be tracking weekly so that you can identify any dips. That's how you build consistency in sales. You have tracking in place. You have very concrete things that you can do to help your sales team get out of ruts if they need to, and you make sure that you're continually building that habit of success with them. You need to make sure that you've got the ability to track leads in different ways so you can spot trends. So one of the things that I do is I recommend tracking in multiple different ways. So I recommend tracking at a bare minimum this level. So tracking not just how many cases did we convert, but cases by case type. Tracking the total number of leads that you have versus the total number of qualified leads, because that will give you your marketing conversion rate. Your marketing conversion rate is different than your qualified conversion rate is different than your consult conversion rate. When you're tracking your leads, this number, the marketing conversion rate, tells you of the leads that are coming into my firm, how many of them are actually qualified. But the marketing conversion rate tells you how well your marketing's working. The simple way to calculate this is you look at how many leads come in, and this is all leads, qualified and unqualified, specific case type and not specific. Then the qualified leads are, is it a case type we take in a jurisdiction we serve? The marketing conversion rate gives you how effective your marketing is. If you do not have 90 to 100% in this column, something is seriously broken in your intake. If you have a qualified lead sitting there and you aren't getting them to a consult, there is something seriously broken. Every single qualified lead should be getting a consult if it is someone that is qualified. With this, that's the lead to consult rate. And then the conversions is of the qualified consults that you had, how many people actually converted. Now, this is going to tell you at a high level how your sales team is doing, but I highly, highly recommend that you track by individual salesperson too, and track not just their overall conversion rate, track their conversion rate by what kind of case they're doing. So tracking these numbers is incredibly helpful to getting a very clear picture of where the holes are in your firm. All right. Thank you guys so much.